Thank you for listening to Life Improvement Radio. You are listening to a rebroadcast of a previously recorded show.
We're live at the Miami Book Fair, powered by Life Improvement Radio, the Toll Education Network. Again, tolltutor.net for more information. Twitter, Toll Tutor, Neil S. Haley, Facebook, LinkedIn, Neil Haley, Instagram, Total Tutor, Pinterest, Neil Haley, Google Plus, Neil Haley. And Eric Remmel is behind the glass today, and we all know why he's behind the glass, and he'll have to talk about that another time. So I'm going solo today for 3.5 hours of great authors, and I never thought I'd end up having to do this specifically with having a great co-host for 3 years and one day. But today we're going to just keep rolling with the punches, and that's what's all about, what's fun about live. And so I'm excited to welcome the program author Paul Austin. He's an emergency room doctor, so I want to ask a little bit about his background, but first about the Miami Book Fair. Paul, how are you? And thanks for coming and stopping by Author's Corner.
Well, thank you so much for interviewing me. This is I'm loving the book fair. It's a big event with tents and streets blocked off.
It's
and
amazing.
Hundreds and hundreds, probably thousands of people who love books, and so I feel so lucky to be here.
It's absolutely amazing, Paul. It's a fabulous book fair and fabulous authors, and Lisa Palais does a tremendous job coordinating all the interviews and all the events. What Palais promotes does a tremendous job. So let's kind of jump into what was your, first of all, I wanted to ask about the book fair. What's your greatest moment so far at the book fair? What could you tell us if you would rank it was something that was the most fun this weekend? The most
fun? Oh gosh, I have met so many other authors who I've had a chance to get to know and chat with. I've heard readings by Richard Ford, Francine Prose, I mean, just heavy hitters that you read in the New York Times book reviews and you read their books, and just listening to them live and get them to sign your books, it's been a thrill.
Oh, I'm sure it's definitely been a thrill for sure, Paul. And you're like, and that's what's amazing about my job. I mean, I get to interview the most amazing authors. I get to interview the most amazing celebrities, sports heroes I've loved, and then also talk education talk other nights. That's the fun power of having your own radio station. So, Paul, let's jump into specifically your background. When I mentioned emergency room doctor, I don't know how many ER doctors are sitting down saying they have their own book, right?
Right. Oh, it's been fun, and the bad news is the job is stressful and has rotating shifts. Like I just got off a series of night shifts and had to kind of click back over to being awake during the day to come down here. So kind of the bad news is that it's sometimes we're often stressful environment, and you're working kind of against the circadian clock. But the good news is I get days off duty, and on my days off I get to write and read, and it's been great. And in the emergency department, we get to help people, do our best to help people who are in rough situations. So I get to interact with people from all walks of life in moments of their lives when they need help, and so that also helps in our writing.
And for you to go ahead now and to put that on paper in your memoir, I mean, I'm sure when you were telling your nurses in the ER or other people that you currently, other doctors, I'm going to write a memoir. What did they look at that you? What was their response, most of them? Because I mean, I know this because of this labor of love that I've interviewed tons of authors, successful to ones that have self-published, and they all have a reason to write a book. But when you brought that up to your colleagues, and I guess family, how did they respond to that?
Sure. At work, they, I think most folks kind of shrugged and weren't sure I would succeed. And then I started going to the Bread Loaf Writers Conference and met my editor there at W.W. Norton. And my first book is about the way my job almost wrecked my family. That my first book is Something for the Pain, Compassion and Burnout in the ER. And it takes the story of me as a pre-med, very caring, compassionate, kind of heart on my sleeve, wanting to help everybody, pre-med to somewhat calloused resident, and then to as an attending physician, kind of out in the community, trying to regain some sense of compassion. And when that book was published, the ER folks that read it liked it a lot because it seemed like I kind of got a lot of the details right, and it resonated with their experience. My second book, and the book that brought me down here, is Beautiful Eyes, A Father Transformed, and it's about our daughter Sarah, our firstborn child. We have 3 kids. They're not kids now. Sam, our youngest, is 21. He's in the 82nd Airborne in the United States Army. And John, his brother, is 23, and he's out on his own and doing well. And then Sarah, 27, lives in a group home. And the book, Beautiful Eyes, is about the way I could not see past Sarah's Down syndrome and disability to see her as the robustly human and robustly funny, unique individual person that she is. And it took me like 24 years to see past her diagnosis see who she is. And so that's the book that got me down here. And it was chosen as a People's Picks. People magazine chose it as one of the picks of the week. November 3rd. And that's when the folks at the ER really thought, well damn, maybe he can write. I mean, up to then.
No.
So,
yeah. Well,
so what,
go ahead, Paul. Sorry.
Once you're in a magazine with Lindsay Lohan, you've made it.
Yes, you're a celebrity now, Paul. And, you maybe should come on my celebrity show. No, but so the thing that it's interesting when you talk about Down syndrome and you couldn't see past that at times is, again, I own a tutoring and consulting company, Paul. I'm an educational advocate. I represent lots of families with special needs kids. I work with a lot of special needs kids, and especially I've worked with Downs before. And it's an amazing, amazing situation how we have to, when we see someone's disability, and how we can not look at them as everyone else. We need to have expectations they could be like everyone else. However, we can't look at ourselves and say they're just forget about them. And a lot of times people throw them out, and we know, and some of them don't even have them as children. This is a story about life. This is a story about truly learning from some of the mistakes you made and not being able to see beyond this, right?
Right. And it's when she was 3 days old, I met with the geneticist who showed me the karyotype. And the karyotype is a photograph of all of the chromosomes, kind of all lined up. And they get the cells and grow them up in tissue culture and then separate them and then put them on a microscope slide and spread them out and break them open and then stain the chromosomes. And then they find an example of a cell where the chromosomes scattered nicely so that they're not overlapped. And then they take a photograph and enlarge it. And then back in the day when Sarah was born, they used embroidery scissors, little tiny scissors, to cut out each individual chromosome. And then it was like a little jigsaw puzzle. They would line them all up. They'd match them up, chromosome 1, chromosome 2, chromosome 1, chromosome 1, chromosome 14, chromosome 14. And the number 21 chromosome had 3 copies to kind of confirm the diagnosis. And I had been seeing pictures of chromosomes ever since I was in college. And I looked and kind of ran my fingers over these little cutouts glued to this piece of paper. And then I went back and to see Sarah and Sally. They were in the room, and the little 3-day-old infant. And I did not recognize myself in my daughter's face. I did not recognize my wife in my daughter's face. She didn't have Uncle Joe's nose or Aunt Susan's ears. I mean, she just had a face that looked like a child with Down syndrome. And I recognized her chromosomes better than I recognized her.
Oh, my.
And it was kind of like that for years until I could finally see that she is a vibrant, bright, funny young woman that analyzes plot lines, can see how characters develop in movies, she read the book in manuscript form. Once I had kind of a copy that my editor and I agreed was pretty much it, I gave it to her in manuscript form, not knowing how much of it she would understand. She's would be called high-functioning by the professionals. But she read the book and she got her feelings hurt. She thought that I didn't think she was human, that she wasn't quite.
Oh, really? Oh.
Yeah, there's some essayists and philosophers who I kind of cover in the book. John Locke, in particular, had an essay on human understanding, and he kind of cleaved off the ability to have an abstract thought as being the cleavage plane between beasts and humans. And Sarah got the idea that I was kind of agreeing with John Locke, which I vehemently disagreed with John Locke. But we talked about it, and my wife Sally and I talked with her, and she's come to terms with it and has come to see that she had to overcome Down syndrome in the book, and it's like Cinderella had to overcome her hardships. And the thing that my character in the book had to overcome was my failure to see her clearly. I had to get past that.
Because you didn't have a child that could be as brilliant as you are, Paul, in certain things, and you didn't see what she was able to overcome. And
right.
There's one university out, I think in the Wisconsin area, I interviewed somebody that had a student in college with Down syndrome, and she was completely, and people still don't think that, special needs kids belong in college, which is awful, because they do. They absolutely do. Mm-hmm. And you see the ability of what she's able to do, but yet there's somebody that probably wrote her off in her life. Right. And the same thing happened, and you did, because you're taught by the book. You're taught in specific ways. If a child has this is where they do. So how was she able to overcome those obstacles, Paul?
Well, my wife and I were lucky. The whole family was lucky. Sarah was born in Chapel Hill, and we had early intervention from as soon as we got home.
I was a developmental therapist. That's why I'm interested in this too.
Yeah. Occupational therapist, physical therapy, developmental therapist, speech therapist, and we, Sally and I, wanted Sarah to have as broad a future as possible. And so we were both, invested in helping her develop as much potential as she could. But there's a risk that it can become something to fix. Like, there's something wrong with your kid, let's do all this speech therapy. There's something wrong with your kid, let's do this occupational therapy. And it's a funny dance it's an interaction that, on one hand, I'm so grateful for OT, PT, speech therapy, and the work we did with Sarah. And I think Sarah's benefiting from that. And the fact that she could read the damn book and disagree with it, that's huge.
That's gigantic. You should be so commended for that fact. And Paul, I wish we had more time. And I'm going to have to invite you back, especially for an education discussion about special needs kids, because I think you're an advocate. And I got a friend that's doing tremendous things to pass laws for Downs kids in Pennsylvania, and was met with the Governor Corbett and stuff. And I'm friends with them on Facebook, so I'll make sure that you guys connect for sure.
I would appreciate that. Thank you so much.
This is like one that's a perfect one for my education show. And I don't know if you guys get to see my research, but I definitely have some connections. But you're tremendous things you're doing, Paul. And I know you have another book to promote as well, and I'm definitely going to have that person on as well. And where can we find information on you, purchase your book, and learn more about you, Paul? Where can we go?
PaulEthanAustin.com.
Perfect.
That's my website, or just Paul Austin writer or Paul Austin Down syndrome, and it'll get to my website. My website is PaulEthan PaulEthanAustin.com, and that's our email function, and as well as some information about my books.
Well, Paul, you're fantastic. Best of luck to you and all the different ventures you're doing. And you said there was another book you wanted to promote. The lady you brought up, and you can put it on the air. That's fine.
Nancy Sharp, and I'll Facebook friend you, and we'll get you two together.
And it's Neil S. Haley, so you can find me. I'll be waiting for that Facebook friend, and I want to have you back on again as well, Paul. Especially,
I would love that.
It was a lot of fun. Best of luck in Miami, and we'll stay in touch, okay?
Thanks a lot. I'm going to put the phone down, but not hang it up.
All right, thank you, Paul. All right, take care. Bye-bye. Bye. You're listening to Author's Corner, powered by Life Improvement Radio, and we'll be back in just a moment.
Thank you for listening to Life Improvement Radio. The views expressed by show hosts or their guests are their own and shall not be construed in any way as advice from Life Improvement Radio. We make no recommendations or endorsements for radio show programs, services, or products mentioned on air or on our website. Personal perspectives expressed by the producers, writers, or editors will always be presented as such. Any rebroadcast or retransmission without the expressed written consent of Life Improvement Radio is strictly prohibited. Thanks for listening.